and welcome to the TonePedia Guitar Summit 2020 booth. These workshops are sponsored by B&G Guitars. Hi, welcome to TonePedia meets Brett Kingsman, who is in association with Carl Martin, and today we're going to be talking about the Plexi Ranger, which is half Plexitone, half Range Master, and it's supposed to be outstanding. Is it?
Well, thank you for having me, Lee. Just a polite correction. It's Kingman. No, there's no S in Kingsman. Outstanding? Yes, I think it is. One half Plexitone, which was already established in the Carl Martin stable of rock goodness, and the other half silicon treble booster, so not exactly a Dallas Master clone, probably more in line with the Hornby Skews, which I think was silicon. And some important low-cut filters on the boost end as well. So it has a variety of uses, all of them rock.
Oh man, the Plexitone is fairly well established. We've had that on TonePedia for some time, and you were saying about it earlier because we started talking about the L Brown sound and these sort of things. And yeah, you see people all over using it all over the world, and it is an outstandingly awesome, like Plexi Marshall sort of sound in a box pedal. It really is great. I see it over in groups all the time. How long have you been using that?
Well, I've been using it or aware of it or have owned one for, gosh, best part of 10 years, I would think, maybe more. Since its inception, really, since the big purple Pro version was released, it's got to be down to 2011, 2012, maybe earlier. Yeah, definitely one of the best in its class.
Yeah.
It's why it was so easy just to take it a step further and put a treble booster in front of it, so you get the best of both worlds.
Treble boosters in front of anything sound great. So yeah.
Well, I wouldn't entirely agree with that, because if you put one in front of something with a lot of headroom, like most of the sort of mid to high wattage blackface Fenders, for instance, it's going to sound bloody awful because of that headroom. Where a treble booster, or specifically the Dallas Range Master, was designed to help the darker sounding amps like a Vox AC30 or a JTM 45, both from the early 60s, to give them a little bit more poke and sustain. And so really it was one of the first ever kind of overdrive pedals.
Yeah.
But pretty specific, had to be used with a specific type of circuit, i.e. the two that I've just mentioned. And it definitely works better, from my experience at least, with those sorts of amps rather than something with high headroom, like a 6L6 Fender.
Yeah, I've used mine with 100 watt Marshall for quite some time, and I love it.
That would be ferocious.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, if I run it, I've got one of these little tube screamer heads, the TSA15H. Running it into that, it just compresses all day long. So I see what you're saying with that. It is horses for courses, obviously, but yeah, when you run them into a pedal, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And that's kind of what you've taken there, isn't it? Can you swap the order on it, or is it the treble booster into the Plexi?
No, excuse me. No, there's no order swapping on this one. The whole idea was really to keep it as simple as possible and just employ the recipe that had been so time proven, which is the treble booster in front of the Plexi side. So that's the way that it's stayed. But of course, there are modern enhancements, like the ability to shift that mid-range frequency, turn it up or down by about 15 dB. In fact, if you turn this down fully, it's just a clean boost, a 15 dB clean boost. And it's not until you select a frequency with this guy and then turn it up or down that you get that extra mid-range focus poke into the side of this guy. So the way that I use it is to keep the gain on the Plexi tone circuit down to a moderate level, which is probably around here because it's got a lot of gain on tap.
They do, yeah.
And so there's your rhythm kind of crunch sound, which is fairly dynamic with any given guitar's volume knob. And then when it becomes, when the hero moment arrives for the solo, you kick this guy in and off you go.
Brilliant.
But the other benefit of the treble booster circuit, real and or virtual, is that it's very responsive, once again, to the old school exercise of riding the guitar volume knob to clean it up, which it does really well. So it has a variety of uses. And of course, if you don't want to use the Plexi side and you do have an amp that the pedal is seeing, something with a little less headroom along the lines of an AC circuit or a Marshall circuit, then this is quite adequate on its own. So lots of different uses.
So you can literally use the boost side independently.
Yes.
Excellent. I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I thought you were saying like if you kind of turn the Plexi side right down and you can use it as a boost, but I like it when they do that. It really is like two pedals in one then.
Yep. Two completely independent circuits, able to be used independently or together, as long as you like this going into this.
Yeah, who wouldn't? So
I'm not sure what the advantages of having the Plexi tone running into the treble booster would,
Well, you'd get a volume jump, and you get a completely different type of boost. But if you can use them independently, you don't really need that. To be fair,
you don't. But we can ask our friend Carl to experiment with an auto switch. We might prototype one just to see if it's worth doing in future releases.
Yeah.
The other thing that I will let slip is that when I was talking to my great friend Phil Sobrano, who's another Melbourne guitar player over here, about this pedal when it was at its last stages of inception, he said, well, the obvious thing to do would be to port this circuit into the AC tone as well, which is the Vox AC30 emulator that you're probably aware of. And then people can go out and enjoy their Brian May style indulgences or Richie Blackmore indulgences. I mean, an AC30, I think it's pretty well known, was used for most of the Machine Head sessions, if I'm not mistaken. So with a treble booster. We may see that as a future release. I, of course, cannot speak for Carl Martin, but I'm hoping that they will. There's a bit of a scoop for you, Lee.
Well, that's really cool. I'll be dropping that in this week's news. That's really, really cool. I've got to say, viewers, should you wish to get one of these, you stand a chance of winning one. At the end of this interview, what we'll do is we'll tell you exactly how you can get your grabby mitts on one. So keep watching. So, the brown sound. Let's talk about it. The brown sound. if you don't know what the brown sound is, I'll let Brett explain.
Well, the brown sound is a term coined by Eddie, I think. Eddie Van Halen, R.I.P. What a loss to the world of music and the world in general, I reckon.
Yeah.
That basically explains sonically what a cranked Marshall late 60s super lead Plexi sounds like through some poor old Celestian greenbacks that are just going, with all of the mid-range and dynamic goodness that combination can bring with a deft right arm. That's the brown sound.
It was just like high gain, but not as we expect it today. It was
yeah. See, if you listen to that early Van Halen stuff, the live things that are available on YouTube, it's not really that high gain. It's more about
the volume,
the attack and the attitude. It's very Marshall super lead Plexi, but it's not kind of Diesel high gain or Bogner high gain or even 5150 versions 2 and 3 high gain. It's very Marshall power amp distortion, I think, rather than preamp distortion, and that's probably where the difference lies. It's in that power amp volume dynamic, because the super lead Plexi is not a master volume amp, as you would be aware. It's a beast that's like a mini PA for guitar.
There's nothing fizzy about it. It is like, but it's not all bass either. It's almost sort of like a wide mid frequency just coming at you and hitting you so hard it makes you need new underwear. Hence the name, the brown sound, and it's just it is lovely. And the Plexi tone, as you were saying before we started filming, if you want to get that sound from a pedal, then the Plexi tone is the one to go for. And what you've done is taken the Plexi tone, dialed back the gain a little bit, because if there's something the Plexi tone's got lots of, it's gain, and kicked it out the backside with something just a different flavour, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. The treble booster. The treble boosters of old added a certain mid-range poke, which helped the darker amps like the AC30 and the JTM 45s and the super leads cut through in a solo sort of mix, almost like a cocked wah. Perhaps not as dramatic as a cocked wah, but along the same sorts of lines. So the term treble booster is almost a misnomer, because it was more of a mid-range push than a spiky kind of treble thing, if that makes sense. And that's that mixed with often the germanium transistor section, because there are not many components in a treble booster, maybe 7 or 8. But the germanium added a certain graininess, and still does. That's why they're so sought after, those old transistors. A real kind of appealing distortion to the ear, a really unique kind of circuit that is hard to emulate, and that's why even the clones now are they're not cheap. So something like this that offers a bit of the best of both worlds, I think a lot of guitar players who are fans of the classic rock tones will find pretty valuable.
So tell me the story about how this came to be. So you said you were talking to the guys over at Carl Martin, and they were asking, what can we do?
Yeah, I have a long-standing friendship with Soren over at Carl Martin, who's a lovely Danish bloke, and we catch up maybe once or twice every year for a fairly lengthy chat, just to say hello and talk about the industry. And I do that with a few different people from around the world. I'm very fortunate in that regard, because I've met so many people through the YouTube exploits. But often Soren will say, is there anything you think we should be doing, or we can build? Have you got any ideas? And I can't blame him for fishing. And if I have any ideas, I'm only too happy to share them. And I said, well, you've got the Plexi tone, which is established worldwide as one of the great industry standards of in terms of a Marshall emulation pedal. It's a ripper, but you haven't done it with a boost. And I didn't elaborate on what I meant by a boost. And he said, "Oh, but we have done it with a boost. It's got a boost on the circuit, especially the Pro version. The longer purple one." And I said, "Not that sort of boost, a treble booster." And Soren wasn't entirely familiar with the treble booster thing, and so I had to do some gentle explanations and say, well, about the Dallas Range Master, the Hornby Skews, the BSM line of pedals, which specializes it from Germany and several other companies that have been producing them, and with all due respect, they weren't overly familiar with what a treble booster was. So I explained and showed them some videos, and then said, "Can you build a pedal with a treble booster in front of it, in front of the Plexitone circuit, so that people can enjoy that specific classic rock tone under one roof?" And this was probably 18 months ago. And in the interim, of course, Drybell and a couple of other companies have released pedals that are not unsimilar, but they sound different because they don't have this exact Plexitone circuit. So after 2 or 3 prototypes were built, I gave them the thumbs up, and they put it in the case, and we have the Plexi Ranger. So my idea is not unique. People have been using treble boosters with Marshall circuits since, the Dallas was invented in the mid-60s. All I've done is suggest to put it in a can, both circuits, with a very, very simple interface, so that people can enjoy both and not have to run around and spend a fortune on germanium treble boosters or super leg plexis. Yeah. So there it is. You can jack that pedal into an amp with a little bit of clean headroom. Cleaner the better, really, because then it will allow it to do all its dynamic things, and go for your life. That's the story, and I hope it's successful for them. And for the record, I'm not enjoying any royalties or anything else. It was just an idea for a friend, and to help them along a bit, and maybe give the guitar community something fun to use as well.
Gotcha. Well, you should be. So, tell me, what's the extra jack for? Is it a remote out?
Turn it on and off by remote, I believe. You know what? I haven't even read the manual to find out exactly what it does, but I believe it's just a remote switch if you want to put it, in a rack or something like that.
I bet it's for switching the Rangemaster side on.
I stand guilty of not having a clue. I'll have to look at the manual.
It might be a TRS out, so you can run it.
I'm thinking a TRS, so you can employ a double foot switch to latch it on and off either circuit. Yeah.
Put it into your ES8 or G2 or whatever, and you're away.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, look, it's been really, really nice to meet you. I think we've covered everything.
And thanks for taking the time to say hi.
No, man, yeah, it's been a pleasure. It really has. So we're going to get on to talking to everyone about how they can win one of these. But before we do so, do you want to say goodbye?
I bid you adieu, and thanks for having me. And I hope that everybody has a fun time at the Guitar Summit. And if possible, go and say good day to Lee and TonePedia. And thanks for having me, and best of luck, Europe. See you soon.
So you want to know how to win a Plexi Ranger. Very, very, very simple. We have devised a test of your tone appreciation. So for the next 2 hours, the TonePedia Guitar Summit Playground will have 4 mystery pedals on there, only one of which is the Plexi Ranger. Guess which one, and you're entered into the draw. Very, very simple. Now, if I were doing it, I'd pop over to tonepedia.com, I'd play with the Plexi Ranger, get used to it, and then it would put me in really good stead for guessing which one correctly. I shouldn't really tell you how to do that, but, hey, good luck to everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.